wherever you are, we would like to once again welcome you to Let's Talk with Pastor Ngwari Talk, where we discuss family issues, marriage issues, parenting, life in general, including retirement, business, spirituality, leadership development. And tonight, we have the mother of all topics. We are basically discussing the wives who destroy peace. The wives who destroy peace. You know, if we had said the husbands who destroy peace, maybe it sounds very usual and very common. But now, when you say wives who destroy peace, I know all our ears are itching to hear what it is exactly that is happening. And like usual, friends, we are going to allow you to participate in the program as viewers. Send in your comments and your questions. We'll be able to address more, especially the questions, because we want to speak from your perspective. We want to answer your questions. So there you are, wives who destroy peace. And I hope tonight, after this program, peace will come back in our lives. I don't know how, but I've got my panelists, three of them, two husbands and one wife. Two husbands and one wife. I've got Professor Gwala there. I've got Pastor Ngwira there, and I've got Sbongile Nari there, Mrs. Nari. And friends, it's our culture on this program to allow you to self-introduce. Let our viewers get to know who you are, and it will help a great deal. What qualifications you have that can help us as we look into this particular topic? Any experience in life that possibly follows your career path, will appreciate if you can, maybe a minute each, help my viewers to understand exactly who you are, so that when they're asking questions, or they know, oh, that one, we can ask this question to this one or to that one. Let me start over there with you, Professor Gwala. Who is Professor Gwala?
Thank you very much. I am Zonzima Gwala. I am married. My wife is Nosipo. I have 3 kids, a young man, a grown-up young man, and 2 young ladies who are at the university. For the context of the discussion tonight, I'm a marriage officer. I'm a counselor. I am a pastor who is pastoring both women and men. And I have other qualifications that may not necessarily be relevant for our discussion today.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. I know it may take us half the night going through your qualifications, but thank you for being kind to us to understand exactly in reference to this particular topic. I think you have what it takes for us to go through this. Now, let's go to the only wife in the studio tonight, Spongile. Who is Spongile?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much, Pastor Ngwira and Pastor Ngwaru, as well as Prof. Gwala, for having me. Sbongile Nari is a wife, and I think that is one of the only things that qualifies to sit in this forum with gentlemen of your caliber. So I do not take this privilege lightly at all. I'm a wife, as I've mentioned. I'm also a mother. And I think for the context of this discussion, that is my strength that I'm coming with to this discussion. Of course, I do have experience working in public sector, private sector, and right now I'm working with students in a higher education institution. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful, Spongile. There you are. Welcome to the program. Let's go to. I don't know whether we should say the clown in the studio. You are going to have a full day with us here. Pastor Ngwira, I enjoy your humor, man. You should be a clown on TV.
Oh, thank you, Pastor Ngwaru, Prof. and Sister Sbongile. and viewers. This is Pastor Ngwira from Durban, KwaZulu-Natal Free State Conference. I'm a pastor of the Seventh Adventist Church. Married to one wife, and I've got 2 girls and 1 son. I am a pastor by profession, a marriage officer, and one of our duty and our responsibility that on day-to-day basis we deal with men and women who come, we pray, we counsel, we fight, but above all, we bring them to the Lord in prayer. So that's Pastor Ngwira. And I pastor one of the coolest church in the southern hemisphere, that is Durban Central.
Durban Central Seventh Adventist Church.
Yeah.
I wish I were your member, man. I would enjoy myself every Sabbath or every weekend out there. Thank you for being on the program. Professor Gwala, thank you for being on the program, as well as Spongile. Now, let's get straight into the issues. Sometimes we exaggerate and come up with topics that don't mean anything to anyone. When you say, last time we were talking about difficult husbands, and the topic, man, it evoked a lot of interest among our viewers. And now, when you talk of wives who destroy peace, is it an issue really? Is there something like that is happening? Are there men out there? Maybe let me start with you, Pastor Ngwira, in your district there. Please don't tell us names and stuff like that. But as a pastor, and also Prof. Gwala, are there men who are really tormented by wives? Or maybe we are just making up things?
Yes, yes, come in, Prof.
Okay. Maybe my response is not going to say in the district where I'm pastoring. It's going to be my experience as a marriage counselor.
Yes.
Yes, there are 2 things that are important. One of them is there are perceptions and there is a reality.
Mm-hmm.
And both of these, they can actually be a challenge to a man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, perception is reality to the perceiver.
Yes.
And the reality is a reality which is confronting you as a married person. Therefore,
Yes.
there are men who feel that they are suffocating in the hands of women.
Yes. They are there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. How common is this? I'm also a pastor by profession. I'm also a pastor. And when you talk of women who are being suffocated in marriage, who are going through hardship, it's like it's common, it's the norm. But when we look at men, is it very common that we find men in this situation? Or is it not something that may be common, but society has a way of hiding men who are suffering so that you don't get to know it, but they are there suffering in their homes? What's your take? Maybe what's your take there?
I think it's fair to assume that there should be and there would be men who are suffering. Why? Just on the basis of the fact that there are women who are suffering.
Yeah.
And in a marriage set up, if I am joined to you and if I'm suffering and I'm suffocating, I'm feeling strangled, the natural reaction for me is to grab out, struggle for my life. And in doing that, you are also at risk of being strangled and suffering as well. So it's fair to assume that there are men who are also suffering as much as women are suffering.
Yes,
maybe Pastor Ngwira,
before
maybe Pastor Ngwira, I can come in also here.
Yes, and I think for me we can conclude by saying that suffering has no gender, male and female. we all suffer. So suffering has got no gender. So even men, we are also suffocating in our marriages. But the perception, the world view, it seems like a man, you are strong, you are a macho man. You cannot suffocate from a weaker vessel that is a woman. So now the myth is that I cannot express and tell people when I'm suffering. So yes, we are suffering inside and dying inside.
So, okay, that then creates a problem for me. That then creates a problem for me, what you have just said there. And I don't know if Prof and Spongile can also help in answering this. Why is it then, if suffering and difficulties are suffered by both husbands and wives, and there is no gender, any gender can suffer in marriage, how come we tend to have more women seeking mitigation, seeking help outside of the marriage than we do have men? When you say to a man, let's go and seek help, he's not prepared. But women are always ready and eager to say, we can solve this thing, man. Let's go to the pastor. Let's go to the counselor. Let's go to uncle. Are men suffering enough? Why is it that they don't want to go for counseling? Are they not suffering enough?
They probably aren't suffering enough. They probably aren't.
The challenge is how we as men have been socialized. For instance, if you have a young boy and a young girl playing out there, if a young girl falls, we all go and pick up the young girl. But if the young boy falls, when he cries, we tell him a man doesn't cry. Therefore, he grows up with that. Even when he goes through challenges in life, there is always that thing in his mind that a man doesn't cry and a man doesn't go and talk to other men because you are exposing yourself. Therefore, that's why it's even very difficult for men to go for counseling, because they feel that's making them weak. And therefore, whatever they go through, whatever experiences they have, they would rather die with their experiences than going out or seeking therapy. Therefore, that's the first challenge. Maybe others can also add from their perspectives.
Spongile wanted to come in. Before Ngwira comes in, Spongile wanted to come in.
Yes, and I think I just also want to refer to the comment that Pastor Ngwira made, where he referred to the woman in the marriage relationship as the weaker vessel. The Bible doesn't, I'm referring to what the Bible, because I assume he was quoting the Bible there. The Bible doesn't say the woman is a weaker vessel. It says that you tend to her as unto a weaker vessel, as though she were a weaker vessel. Woman is not a weaker vessel. But the challenge we face is because of how we've been socialized, which is what Prof has referred to. We have been socialized to believe that we are weaker, and men have been socialized to believe that they are stronger. And that's why we find this struggle. And even when men struggle, they are not even allowed to struggle, because society has not allowed them, from the fundamental points, for them to struggle at all.
Having said that, you are trying to correct our theology there. Maybe before I make a follow-up on you, Ngwira, what you have to say there from Devon?
I just want to say to that the perception, the cultural perception, as I think Prof, not necessarily are disagreeing with Sister Spongile, but I think it's the culture. If you look at what the Prof has brought up, is that when the two, a boy and a girl, fall, you tend to make sure that the woman is safe. You follow that? The boy, you say, you are strong, you are strong. So as we grow up, men are regarded as strong, and then in the process, women, because of that worldview, is like a weaker vessel. Now, I even go further like this. When in your pastoral work, Prof, and I think Pastor Ngwaru, even when we are praying for the demon possessed, I always ask myself, is that when did you last see a man being demon possessed, except just reading from the Bible? But you find that it is always women that are demon possessed, and then we pray for them, they are free. But men, in our possession, we are so strong that we restrict our demons and they cannot do anything. So that kind of thing bothers really, that we keep everything inside to a point that even demons cannot be prayed for.
Yeah. Right.
Pastor Ngwira, Pastor Ngwaru.
Ngwaru, yes.
Yes, I think I want to emphasize what Sibongile said.
Yes.
Some of us, when we read the text that Pastor Ngwira alluded to,
yeah, exactly,
are actually giving reason to men treating women as weaker vessels.
As weaker vessels, yes.
Yes, and I think we should correct it here that this is an analogy that is being made by the Bible, and it should be as an analogy, not as a statement of fact.
Oh, appreciate that. Now,
we all agree on that one. I think on the issue of theology, let's agree on that. But I said the world view, the perception.
The world view,
So we are talking about the world view. Now, that's why I said Sibongile said I used that maybe in the background. But I think Prof and Sibongile, you are right. So we tend to be strong, yet we are also weak. Because I'm also a weak vessel, actually. Very weak and fragile.
Now, I don't know whether this is a blockbuster. I don't know how you look at this. I still feel like we all agree that men are weak. They will not want to go to the pastor to show their vulnerability and the weakness. And they will not want to go to the counselor and whatever. But I think men will go to their mothers to go and cry. No wonder daughters-in-law and mothers-in-law run into ongoing battles because is it an overstatement to say husbands will find it easier to go to their mothers and cry on their mother's shoulders? Hence, you have this perennial battle between daughter-in-law and mother-in-law, because this man, who is still a mommy's boy, always goes there to report to say, no, things are not fine at home.
That is not normal. Most men would not go and complain to their mothers.
They will not.
Yes, but of course there's a relationship between a mother and a child.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes women perceive that relationship as you reporting her to your mother.
Oh, okay. It's a perception.
It's issues of perception.
Yes.
Of course, we cannot rule it completely out. There are men who would go to their mothers and complain.
Yeah.
But if we were to put them in a scale, you would discover that those men are not in the majority.
Oh, okay. No, I get the point. Now, let's go to the issue of, in terms of expression, whether you call it perception or you call it real, how are women perceived to be difficult? What difficulties do women bring in marriage, either as perception or as real? How are men perceiving these difficulties? When we sit in the company of men, what are we talking about when we are gossiping over our wives?
Yeah.
Before we go to Spongile,
let me just share one or two things, and then Vera will come in, and then Spongile will finish up. The first thing that men would gossip about when they are talking alone,
yes,
is a wife that is disrespectful.
Disrespectful.
Yes, a disrespectful wife will always make her husband to gossip. Now, the second thing that is important, men like to be cared for. Now, when they feel that the wife is uncaring, to them, that wife is actually destroying peace in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other issue that is important, men have a very fragile ego. They are the weaker vessels.
They are the weaker vessels.
They have a very fragile ego.
Yeah.
Now, if a woman is now doing things which the man perceives those things to be things that are supposed to be done by a man. That
Yes.
creates a problem
Mhm.
in how the man is going to be looking at issues. Then probably the other one is the understanding of the word love.
Yes.
Because with men, there is some confusion between the word love and lust. But
And
with
last year.
women, there is no confusion.
Okay. Please
Therefore,
come
they
home.
know
Come
when
home.
they say they love something, they know. When they
What they're
say
talking about.
they know what they are talking about. But
Uh-huh.
men, they when it comes to love issues, they are very confused. That's why the Bible says, love
Mm.
your wife. Because
Yes.
as men, we have the ability to love
Yes.
women, not one woman. That's
Ish.
why the Bible says to us as
Love.
men,
Yeah.
love your wife,
Mhm.
exclusively your wife.
Yes. Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you. No, that's fine. But let's not
yeah,
lose track. We are discussing difficult wives or wives
yeah,
who destroy peace. I
yes.
know we may give a lot of battering to the husbands, but let's not forget the context. Guido, what did you want
Yes.
to say?
I just want to run just three things that come to mind. Number one, I
Yes.
think it will be I think there are a lot of what you call unrealistic expectation that has not been communicated. You see,
By who?
but by wives, by women. You see, there's a
Uh-huh.
lot of expectations that have
Yes.
not been communicated. But
Uh-huh.
those expectations have not been communicated. In the
Yes.
process of no communication of the expectations,
Yes.
that can also cause a serious challenge
Mm.
to make a woman to be very difficult. And then I think the second one, I will agree with the prof on the element of the issue. When I say authority, it has nothing to do with control, weaker or who's
Yes.
strong or who's weaker,
Yes.
but undermining issues of ego. That authority is undermining his authority. When a
Yes.
husband feels that his authority has been undermined, yet
Yes.
he's expected to be responsible. You see, the authority is being undermined, but yet is expected to be responsible. I think that also becomes there's a challenge. Then the
Yeah.
third one for me will be that men are treated as suspect. Then I'll always say that men are always treated as suspect with
Yes.
a myth,
Yes.
that says all
Yeah.
men are cheaters. So which means
Yes.
that all women are
Yeah.
investigators. So we are treated
Yeah.
as suspect. So that kind of
Okay. Thank you for those 3 points, Pastor Nguida. Let me go to Spongile there. Spongile, these two husbands have raised
Yes,
serious issues.
yes,
I
very
don't
serious.
know. I don't know how you have heard them and how you understand them. As a wife, there you are, Mr. Naris is in there.
Yeah,
yeah,
When the professor says respect and care and the suspect and all those things from
yeah,
Pastor Nguira there. No, I like the idea where he's saying authority. So there is respect, care, and authority, and the men are clamoring for these things. And if these things are not coming, then you are a difficult wife. How do you think a man ought to be respected? And
I
how
think.
do you work with a men's authority? How do you understand the authority of a husband? What kind of a thing is that?
Mm, mm. That those are strange animals, Pastor. But I'm sure we can familiarize ourselves with them without getting bitten too badly.
Yes,
Um, I think when we talk about respect,
yes,
respect is a very dynamic construct, and
yes,
why I think it's very dynamic because it's also very fluid as well. Because
exactly.
what would be respect to you and what
Yes,
probably was taught to me as respect are
yes,
two
mm,
totally different things. If
yes,
you remember, a husband and wife are two people that are coming from two very different contexts. And
yes,
all we have agreed upon is the fact that we love each other madly enough to tie our
yes,
lives and possibly our
yes.
destinies to each other.
Mhm. Yeah,
And oftentimes, more often than not, especially when you're coming from different cultures, even within
yes,
the same culture,
Within the
And
same culture.
from the same neighborhood, if you look
Yeah.
at how you conduct your household and what you have taught to your children as respect, it's
Yes.
very different to what has been taught just right next door to your
Across
home.
the road, yes.
Across the road, you're living in the same city, same town, same culture, you go to the same church, you listen to the same messages, but within our own environments, we create our own cultures and our own ideas of what respect is. So
Yes.
obviously when you come and you get married, both of you have got totally different ideas of what respect is.
Yeah.
And they may be worlds apart. And if this
Yes.
is not communicated, not just communicated, but if it is not agreed upon, then there will definitely be problems. For example,
Yes.
just a classic example. If my husband were to assume or to expect me to kneel down every time I spoke to him, every time I gave him a plate of food, every time I handed him a
Yeah.
glass of water, and failure to do that is a sign of disrespect. Now get this right. In my perceptions, in my ideas, he is not wrong because that's what he has been taught as
Yes.
respect.
Yes.
But I have been taught that I can hand you those things while kneeling down, but inside my heart, I'm standing up tall.
Yeah.
And I'm probably even cursing the ground that you walk on.
Yeah.
And so our ideas of respect can be
Yes.
worlds apart. And
Yes.
if these ideas are not communicated, number one, and they're also not agreed upon, then there will definitely and always be challenges. Because remember, we're coming together from different contexts. So there has to be compromise from both sides. There has to be agreement. Okay, in our home, what will be respect? How will we act out respect or speak respect?
Can I hold you there, Spongle, just for a while?
Mm.
You'll continue. You remind me of my first battle in my marriage. I'm sure it should be the first month of the first year of marriage. I don't want to say the first day, but forget about maybe the first week of the first month of the first year. I'm coming from a mother who was, my father comes at 10 midnight and she wakes up to go and warm up the food and give to my father. And my father simply sits there and waits for this woman to wake up and do all the chores. When he is done eating, then she must clean up the plates at midnight, goes to sleep, makes tea for him. And I used to watch this. I said, hey, when I get married, man, I would like a wife who behaves like my mother. You get given tea and everything is done for you. Yours is to sit on the
Oh,
floor.
no.
The woman is doing everything. Now, I got married to Elizabeth, and I tell you what, I come from the church, but there's nobody who wakes up to give me food.
Yeah.
She just, oh, the food is in the warmer. No. What do you mean the food is in the warmer? Go and take the food and give it to me. And so I'm saying, I appreciate the point that you are raising, that our socialization, the way we are socialized, may possibly operate as filters to understand what respect is. And when that doesn't happen from this woman who doesn't look at respect that way, then she's perceived as being very difficult. I don't know. Did you want to add something else? Or maybe, Gwira, you want to add something?
Yeah.
Or Prof?
Okay. Come, Prof.
Oh, thank you. I think Smongile is bringing a point that marriage is a journey, not an event.
Not an event, yeah.
Yes, because when it's an event, once that event is done, then you can't expect me to fulfill any responsibilities because the event was there. Maybe the event was the wedding. Therefore, the event is there. You can't expect any other things from me.
Yes.
But if you take marriage as a journey, you cannot go to Zimbabwe without discussing with your spouse how you're going to Zimbabwe.
Yes.
Yeah.
You cannot just go to US without discussing. Therefore, whatever you do, you even discuss the tickets, which airline you are going to use. You discuss the clothes that you are going to wear there. because it's a journey. Now, when it ceases to be a journey, it creates a problem because there are those expectations which have not been shared with any other person, and that on its own, it clogs communication. Because if it's an event, there's no need for you to communicate. But if it is a journey or a process, I have to communicate, because for me and you to stay happy in this journey, we need to communicate. How are we going to make our journey happy?
Okay, fine. Let me transit to another point, and that is, sometimes we are mismatched in marriage. You find the husband is taller, the wife is shorter. The husband has PhD, the wife does not have, and the husband is masculine. Maybe the wife is not. The husband is the one who brings all the money or the bigger chunk of the money in the house and whatever. When the husband adds all these things to him, it translates to, I am the most powerful person in this marriage. What happens now when a woman, when tables turn and the woman is the one with all the money and the woman is the most educated, and maybe you are fired from work and you are at home and this woman is taking care of you, do men find it easy to be in that kind of setup? Or what challenges do women pose when the tables are shifted in that direction? Any one of you please can help them.
Yes, when the tables are shifted, Pastor Ngwaru, is that one, men have been socialized to be the providers. And therefore, once that role is now taken by a wife, sometimes even if a wife is making a decision that she would have made if I was providing, this time because she is providing, it threatens me.
Yes.
All right. And therefore, the shift on the roles that we were playing can actually cause a problem if we have not sat down and say, look, this is how we've been doing things. Circumstances have changed. How are we going to deal with issues going forward? Because we cannot just assume that things will just switch themselves. We need to communicate. Myself and my wife need to communicate. I'm no longer working. You are working. How are we going to deal with issues here at home? Are you going to feel comfortable when I make decisions? My wife is asking that question because you are not working, I'm working. We need to confront these issues, because if we don't, they definitely are a recipe for disaster.
A recipe for disaster. That's fine. Pastor Ngwira. Okay,
my take just to build up on the prof is simple. It's because, number one, when we look at the issues of authority, when we talk about authority and the men being the strongest, it does not make...
For me, what is authority?
Wait a minute, I'm coming there. It's because if I'm saying I am the head, you see, when I'm saying that I'm the head, but being the head does not mean that I am controlling, because headship comes with the servanthood. You see, that's what Christ portrays, being the head, but being a servant. So in other words, where there is an open communication, as both Spongile and Prof mentioned, that when you talk on this journey, you communicate. You as the husband who is in the authority, you share. And especially also, without being ashamed or embarrassed, we ministers as pastors, we get wives who are professionals that earn more than us. But I don't remember personally to say my wife, because she earns more than me, now she's in control. But both of us, we engage, we communicate. So when roles changes, because of that understanding and communication, I don't see that there can be a problem. But if there was that controlling, that pulling element, I am the head, hear what I'm saying, this is what you must do. So when the role changes, it becomes like it's a revenge. But where there is a journey of communication, talking, transparency, honesty, and openness, I don't think there can be a problem. Okay. Whether a woman is working, I'm at home, I can live with that and still in control.
Yes. But Prof. Gwala there and Dispongile, please, for the sake of my viewers, I have to speak on their behalf. Define what authority is. Because if the husband does not understand what authority is, he will always view the wife as a problem. What is authority? When we say the husband is the head and is the authority over what? What are you doing? How do you use authority? Please help me.
Thank you, Pastor Ngwaru. I think Pastor Gwira is the one who actually introduced the word authority.
Yeah.
Because as we stand here, if we are going to be using the biblical term, it talks about headship.
Yes.
And headship does not mean that I have authority. It actually means that I have a responsibility to lead the family. Now, there is a difference between authority and a responsibility to lead. Because when you lead, it is not your will that is done. It is the will of the people you are leading.
Thank you. It's even to me, I really appreciate that definition.
But again,
you want to challenge that?
No, I'm not challenging, but I'm saying, but as you are talking about the headship issue, because as I mentioned, that headship, that leading, because you are leading, there is authority in that leading, but it has got no control or saying that you've got subordinates. Like as I said, every time when I say I am the head, when I say I am the head of my family, I go to the kitchen and cook because I'm the head. You follow that? I sweep the house because I am the head. You know? So I do everything in the house because I'm the one of the head. No wonder why headship to me is servanthood. I lead by example.
Yeah, Pastor Nguyen, I think I'm just worried that we might lose our viewers.
Right.
I want us to just make sure that we are saying headship has to do with servant leadership.
Yes.
And servant leadership has to do with responsibilities.
Yes.
Because I would like to steer away from the word authority because it can be misinterpreted by our viewers.
I appreciate that.
Correct.
Now, here is another scenario to the three of you. When a husband develops an affair, an extramarital affair, they don't even expect that the woman is going to challenge that. They may not even want to be asked or to be questioned as to why you're coming home late. You come home every other day, and sometimes the whole weekend you are not there. I don't know how society has made it in such a way that husbands are understood or they understand themselves that this is not a big deal. But the moment a wife develops a relationship and this man is faithful and the wife is not faithful, what is the normal approach to this kind of situation when the wife is the one in affairs? Sibongile, can you come through there? When a woman is the one who is unfaithful, how do men approach that? Is it an easy thing for men to say, oh, yeah, even if you come after 3 days, it's okay, as long as you have come back home, like men do?
Maybe while
that cannot happen. That cannot happen. It's unacceptable. There are certain things that men would not tolerate, and those are the things that men do not tolerate. And yet the opposite is true, that it does happen. Men do those things, and those are the sort of things that cause women then to become difficult. When a man does things like that,
when a man
it's very rare to find the woman then going out away for 3 days, coming back.
Yes. And when that happens, do you see a man coming to the uncle, to the mother, to the father, to the pastor, and say we have a problem at home? Do you think a man will hold back and leave the wife in an affair, or they'll run around the whole world seeking how this can be dealt with? That is, if the woman is not dead by the time help comes.
Maybe let me come in. I think the first challenge that I want us to look at is that when it comes to men,
Yes.
because they have been socialized,
Yes.
that if they have extramarital affairs, that
Yes.
is not an issue. It's something that the community accepts, the society accepts.
Yes.
And when it comes to a woman, again, socialization, with them, it becomes an embarrassment if they do it.
Yes.
Same thing, if it's done by a man, it's something to wink an eye to. But if
Yes.
it's done by a woman, it's an embarrassment.
It's an embarrassment.
What is also happening is that a woman forgives a man, even if a man does this more than once. But a woman can't do it once, because the first time she does it, she is shown the gate.
Yeah.
The man would be going to a pastor if after the woman has been shown a gate. Therefore, I think what is important here is that if we have made a decision to be together,
Yes.
and we are experiencing setbacks in our relationship, both
Yes.
of us must take responsibility.
Exactly.
And then we must sit and see what happened, what went wrong, where. Why is my wife doing this? Because most of the times, we as men are pushing our wives to other men's arms.
Oh.
Therefore, I need to look at myself. What did I do? Why is my wife doing this? More than saying, I'm not going to forgive her. She was not supposed to do this, because it takes two to tango.
Tango. Let me just hold you there. Let's go to a question. There's a question there. Just hold, Pastor Ngwira. Let's answer that question from Elizabeth. It says, how can a woman who is ever nagging be helped, because such a woman destroys peace? Does nagging destroy peace? And what is to nag? Skongile, what is to nag?
Nagging, I think it's singing the same song over and over and over again. And nagging definitely destroys peace. But then the question is, what has driven me to nag? Because if I'm singing the song over and over again, what is the message of that song? I think that is one important question. Because if you want me to stop singing the song, listen to the message and act on the message of the song, and the nagging will stop.
So you are assuming that men are the reason why women nag. Is this what you are saying?
It's one of the reasons.
One possibility.
Very possible.
And the other thing she's saying is that if you are already dancing, if I'm playing a tune, you will continue to dance.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I think my take on this one will be, a woman may be a reflection of a man. Because I can destroy my wife, I can build my wife as she does the same to me. You follow that? So maybe looking at Solomon's, I think Solomon says it's better on top of the house, than a nagging woman. But the question is, as Mongli is saying, what is it that the woman is saying to me that I'm not listening? Because if I can attend to that, sometimes I must go beyond the words and look at the emotions beyond in what comes from that woman. So once I pick up the emotions in the words, I'll be able to help. But most of the time, we pretend to listen, but we don't. No wonder why the song will keep on
Yeah.
singing and singing, and then the peace is being destroyed in the home.
Yeah.
And then we blame the woman. No wonder why the prof say, I must look at myself as a man. What is it? But I won't look at me, I'll look at her.
Yes.
Because also of society.
Oh, okay. Thanks,
The other problem, Pastor Nguera, just before you come in,
yeah.
is that sometimes when a woman is nagging, we have used music as a way to describe this. Now, in music, there are two things. There is the music and there are lyrics.
Right.
Yes.
Sometimes men listen to music, not lyrics.
Not the lyrics.
And therefore, they don't understand what the woman is talking about. Every time the woman is singing and singing and singing, men are irritated by music, not by because they don't understand the lyrics.
They don't understand the lyrics. All right, let me put a little hold to the three of you here. If I make an assessment, right now, it's like from the time we have started up to now, we continue to discuss men via women. What we have done so far to the people who are listening is women are being tormented because of who you are, of what you do. We are fighting the reasons back to men as why they are suffering. Could you let me get from each one of you, can you add to the list how are women destroying peace in marriage? Let's discuss women, and for the timing, let's pack men. How are women destroying peace in marriages? Or how are wives destroying peace in marriages?
I think the reason why we keep gravitating towards men is we're discussing a relationship. So it's difficult to discuss one without making reference to the other. And one of the main reasons is, I just want to go back to that example that you gave where you said if the tables are turned and suddenly a man becomes is unable to provide the way he used to, and now the woman is now the one who is standing in that place. What you generally see, how the woman would treat and how she will treat the husband is how she herself has been treated most of the time.
Okay.
If he has been protective about what he earns and he has been making the decisions about how the money is used, etc., the woman generally mimics that behavior. And oftentimes, some women, a lot of women, it's a way of paying back. You know,
they're paying back.
Yeah, it's that, to be honest, it's a way of paying back a lot of the times that you did this to me, and probably because throughout the time she tried to communicate, you didn't understand. So now she's using practical examples, a practical method to show you what it's like. So a lot of the times, and how women behave, it's in response to how they have been treated.
So you're
and I think
it's reactive.
It's a lot of the times how women behave, it's a response to how they've been treated. And that's why I think we keep gravitating back towards what the man has done to ignite this kind of behavior, to ignite the toxicity in the relationship. And because my question then would be, from the onset, why would you marry a woman who is destructive? Why would you marry a woman who is difficult? And if she wasn't difficult in the beginning, what happened there to make her difficult? What did she just wake up and change? What has happened to the relationship? Because we're talking about relational things here. So it's difficult to talk about one without the other.
Without the others. No, I appreciate that. Pastor Nguira, can you tell me one thing, one habit inherent with women that causes hardship in marriage?
You know, when people get married, I think no wonder why my first point was unrealistic expectation, you know, because if those expectations are not communicated, many women have got expectations. But I want to believe that they don't list them down and say what it is. And then there's a perception that says, my husband will do it. You follow that? I think Prof touched something about love that they are clear. If a woman says, I love, you are expecting that the way I define love, the men also will understand love from that angle. Then you discover that it's not like that. You get that. Then that's why I'm saying that because of that unrealistic expectation that has not been communicated. Hence, once we learn to communicate, once you learn to unpack even the issues of nagging, what is it that makes you nag? This music and lyrics that we are talking about, what is it? No wonder why we, without maybe being off the topic, I can simply say, if we look at the Bible analogy of God and the church, God and the church, God and the church, then you realize that the responsibility is in the hands of a man to clean the church.
Okay, that's fine. We'll continue with that one. Prof, let's go to that question there. Do women have temperamental issues that may be a challenge in marriage? Temperamental issues.
Thank you. Yes, they do. They do have temperamental issues, just like
Can
men
you
do.
illustrate? Yeah.
Just like men do. For instance, they can be short-tempered. And because they are short-tempered, they would be shouting and nagging. They can be strong-willed.
Yes.
And they want their way or no way.
Yes.
And you can have some who may not be forgiving because that's part of their temperamental value.
Their DNA, yes.
Yes, they may not be forgiving. And you might pick up that some, they may be perfectionists. And as a husband, you are not that perfection. You are not a perfectionist. And that creates and causes a challenge in the relationship. Therefore, there are quite a number of temperamental issues that can affect the relationship negatively. Maybe before I give others, I think there are things that wives can do without leaning on husbands. For instance, if we are talking about priorities, if you have unsynchronized priorities at home, that is going to create a challenge when the priorities are being implemented.
Yes.
All right. Because if my wife has her priorities and those priorities have not been communicated, she will be strong bent to make sure that her priorities are done. And that is going to create a problem. And the other thing that is also a challenge is peer pressure. We can't run away from it. Women have a peer pressure just like men do. And unfortunately, when that peer pressure comes, it puts pressure on you as a man. And sometimes that pressure creates conflict in the relationship. Therefore, those are things that we need to look at. I know we are going to talk about how to assist then men or how to assist these women so that the relationship is restored. But for now, I think we're just raising issues that are there which are destroyers in relationships.
In relationships. I appreciate that, Professor. Maybe let's begin to move in that direction of how do we deal with that. But before we go there, Sibongile, there are two serious issues that we men, not women, we men discuss among ourselves, Gwala, Ngwira, and myself, when we are by ourselves. One of the big challenges is women are not they are not easily inclined to sexual drive, and they may have the drive, yes, and whatever, but it's like the men are the beggars, and in most cases the shop is always closed. You get what I'm saying? They go shopping, but all the time they find a placard written "shop closed" and what have you. And the other thing is, women. There are people who complain of that I've met quite a number of times, is that there's disparity in the way we treat our parents. When my parents come over, there are other human beings that have come. But when your parents come over, oh, heaven and earth has come, and we have to do everything we can do for these angels that have visited. Can you comment on these two issues, please? Because many have got a problem with the issue of sex and also the very issue of we treat our parents differently.
Okay. I'll start off with the closed shop analogy that you've given.
Yeah.
I think it's important to recognize that shops can get closed for different reasons. A shop, you might go to a shop and it's closed because there is no electricity. Someone has not paid the bill, the electrical bill. And if you have not paid, I'm sure you get my meaning. If you have not paid the electrical bill, it's very difficult for the shop to operate effectively. Another reason is the shop owners might be taking stock, checking what is in stock, because someone might have made withdrawals without necessarily making payment for those withdrawals, So there are many different reasons why a shop would be closed. And I think for each individual relationship, there is need to communicate more about it, to find out, why is this shop closed? The times when the shop is open, what will I have done to ensure that the shop is open and it's running effectively? And
sorry, if you are talking to your sisters, Spongile, what would you advise your sisters out there in terms of the shop being closed all the time?
The shop should not be closed all the time. There has to be an agreement. According to the Bible, there has to be an agreement between the two of you as to when and why the shop is closed. So closing the shop without reason, and especially without even communicating the reason. How do we now reopen the shop if we don't even know why the shop is closed? So it makes no sense, and it's unfair for the shop to be closed without a notice saying, why is the shop closed and when is the shop going to be closed? When is it going to be open? I beg your pardon. So, but communication is key. Like I said, I don't think there's any one formula or any one response to this kind of question, because there are many different situations and different challenges that women are facing, that men are facing, that are in the marital relationship, and they need to be addressed individually. In some cases, counseling is probably needed. Sometimes it's medical attention that is required. So it's important then to look at it on a case by case. Yes, but for the sake of the marital relationship, this is one area that needs attention, definitely.
Right. Before you go to the how to treat parents differently, Professor Gwala and Pastor Ngwira there, we have financial muscle, and sometimes is in the hands of men, financial power, and various other forms of power. Don't you have a situation where women also say, you can have all those powers, but I'm going to have the power of the crop. I'm going to have sexual power, and I will make you feel it. And doesn't this power go to extremes or abuse at times? What are men saying?
I think that's the reason why we want to run away from the word authority and power and zero into the word responsibilities. Because if we're dealing with responsibilities, there is no reason for you to say, I'm going to square back. Now, the reason why I am squaring is because you now have power, I must also have power.
Yes.
And that becomes a challenge. And the other thing which I think we need to share here is that men and women are physiologically different.
Okay.
Now, with men, They can have sex at any time, any given place, anywhere where the situation allows them to, but not
Yes.
women.
Yeah.
Women, they must be prepared for this, and women, they themselves must prepare for it
Yes.
in their minds. Therefore, sometimes we as men think that they are closing the shop, and
Yes.
yet we have not brought the
Stop.
what is the oil to oil the lock, and therefore
Yes.
the lock is now rusty because we
Yes.
are not oiling the lock.
Okay.
And yet, if the lock was oiled, it's easy
Yeah.
to open because you have prepared this individual. That's another thing. Apart from the issues of health and apart from the issues of misunderstandings that are happening at home, because sometimes they can result in the locking of the bedroom. Therefore,
Okay.
we also need to realize that we as men also have a responsibility, and we need to assist our wives so that they are where we want to be.
Okay. Uh, Thank you. There's a viewer who sent a question to say, is it wrong if I'm a wife to seek financial support from my biological parents, not from my in-law parents, but my biological parents? Can I continue to get support from my biological parents even though I am in marriage? In just one line, who can answer that, please?
Let me quickly answer it. If the two of you have agreed, you and
Yes.
your husband,
Yes.
it's something that you do as a family, there's nothing wrong. But if
There's
you are
nothing
doing
wrong.
it behind the back of your spouse, then it's a
Yes.
problem.
It creates a problem. Back to you, Spongile. When my parents come, it's another set of human beings that have come. When your parents are in the house, even the chicken will know, and the ice cream will know, everything will know. Pick and Pay will know that, yeah, there must be a visitor who has come in town. Is it a real problem? Have you heard of this? Is it a challenge that women bring in marriage sometimes? Am I losing Spongile?
Oh, yes, definitely. Hello, you have me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you, yes.
Yes. Oh, great.
Yeah.
I was saying definitely that is a real challenge. It is a real problem that you find in marriages, and
Yeah.
you find I think it's more common than we want to admit that it is, where there
Yes.
is partiality in how we treat the relatives of our husbands, and
Yes.
that can definitely cause serious problems in the relationship. You will be viewed
Yes.
definitely as a toxic wife because you're selective, and
Mhm.
and when you do that, I don't know how, as a woman, that communicates love, not just to the people who are family to your husband and now to you, but even
Yes.
to your husband. So that
Mhm.
that definitely does happen, and definitely it does inspire challenges within the relationship.
Okay. No, thanks a lot. Now, let's move to how do we help husbands who are being dominated, who are being persecuted in marriage? Um, where do they go? What happens? And is there a way of also helping domineering wives to be considerate of their husbands? And what mitigation factors can come in? How can we help this marriage? Anyone?
Okay, let me start, and my two colleagues will finish. The first thing that I would recommend
Yes.
to a man who feels suppressed or
Mhm.
who is suffocating is
Yes.
that we sometimes suffer alone.
Yes.
And I would recommend that you meet with other men just voice how you feel. Just by talking, you are going to see a difference. It's going to be therapeutic. In other words, if we had a support group, if you are able to identify that support group, talk, it's going to help you. Other men are going to say things that are even bigger than your issues, and they will share how they are handling those things. Therefore, exchange experiences with other men.
Okay,
Then the
that's
second thing that I would recommend
yes.
is that seek professional help. I know men are not very keen in seeking professional help. They
Yes.
only seek it when their marriage is really on rocks.
Okay.
But I want to recommend and suggest to all men that while things are still happy, while you
Yeah.
still see the signs,
Yeah.
go and see a therapist,
Yes.
because a therapist is going to help you as a man, and it's going to help your wife also, so
Yes.
that your relationship becomes a relationship of two equals who are
Yeah.
moving forward together in a
Yes.
loving manner.
Yes.
Because you can't be helped alone and your wife is not helped, or your wife can't be helped alone and you are not helped. Therefore, seeking professional help would be very important. Then the last one I would recommend from my side is that there are always seminars that are prepared for married people.
Okay.
Attend those seminars. You are not going to get 100% everything that is said there, but there are
Yes.
particular things that are going to help you in your relationship. You
Mhm.
build your relationship by experiences of others. Therefore, you are
Yes.
taking feathers from other birds to build
Mhm.
your house. Therefore, those are three things that I would recommend for a husband who is suffocating and for a
Mhm.
wife who is a destroyer in a relationship.
Yes, I appreciate that. Spongile and we are there. What help is available? What can be done to help this marriage so that it can be smooth sailing, and there's respect in the house, there's love in the house, and stuff like that, so that it ceases to be a war zone.
Yeah, I think for me, to add what Prof has just mentioned, it's this mentality of that a man must first check himself,
Uh-huh.
come to a realization to that
Yes.
that vulnerability. It's like we
Mhm.
refuse to be vulnerable.
Yes.
You know, this
Yes.
thing of being strong, being head, is that
Mhm.
nothing can go wrong. So I think
Yes.
once you can come into terms with that, says I am
Yes.
vulnerable, I am in trouble, I
Yes.
need help, I need
Yes.
somebody to talk to.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that to me becomes a starting point, because I
Yes.
refuse to say, how can such be happening to me? So that
Yes.
vulnerability brings birth, creativity, and innovation. And that's
Yes.
what Prof just mentioned. You talk about the system, talk to someone,
Yes.
seek a professional help. But once
Mhm.
you don't see yourself as vulnerable, we
Yes.
find it like it is a sin to be vulnerable. I think earlier we mentioned something interesting, is that I can cry. It's like crying is a sin. A
Yeah.
man cannot cry. Maybe not in front of anyone, but I do
Yeah.
cry.
Yeah.
Sometimes your wife must see you that you can cry. Others will say,
Okay.
"Oh, a man crying." But
Yes.
honestly, I have done it,
Yes.
in front of my wife. And then
Yes.
my wife looks at me, this man that I look up to, he is also vulnerable.
Yes.
You get that? So I
Yeah.
think we refuse to be vulnerable. Once we can take that, and then
Yes.
what the prof is mentioning becomes very easy. And
Mm.
again, to move away from the society, how it views men, to say
Yes.
people will love. How do you go and tell somebody to say, my wife is a problem, my wife is abusing me,
Mm.
my wife is that? No wonder why you asked us earlier to say why it
Yeah.
seems if suffering is both gender,
Yes.
we have also developed that men are
Yeah.
strong, women are also strong.
Yes.
Women are suffering, men are also what?
Of course,
Suffering.
suffering. Yes.
But why is it always women that seem to be
Yeah.
suffering? Because we
Yes.
choose to move with a pattern that says we are strong, we cannot be vulnerable.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
think let
Mm.
us agree that we are vulnerable, we need to be cared for, we need to cry, and also to face the reality and seek help. Uyangihlupha lo mfazi, udinga
Yes.
umthandazo madoda, ningithandazele. Women, they do that and they get helped.
I appreciate that. I seem to hear you saying, as men, we must be bold enough to seek for solutions, to solve problems, than to hold back and think that things will just solve themselves, or to pretend that we are very strong when the marriage is collapsing. Spongile, what can be done, men, to help these men and women, the vulnerable men and the domineering wives? What help is available? What can be done?
I think, as the gentlemen have highlighted, that
Yes.
it's important to seek outside help. Definitely, after you have attempted to resolve things between the two of you,
Yes.
and you have not been successful, it's also important then to seek help from a counselor, from your church pastor, from your eldership, someone who is, and oftentimes even a professional who is well versed in those issues. And I find that prayer does a lot in changing the hearts of men,
Yes.
and men, that meaning mankind, so it covers
Yes.
men and women,
Human
you
beings.
know.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And we find that prayer, let's start with prayer. Let's start with prayer, committing one another, not just women, not just men, but committing one another to the care and keeping and to the instruction of the Lord. And you will find a multitude of obstacles moved out the way. And where someone's temperament was rash and mean, you'll find someone calm and collected, and you're able to talk.
Yes.
So I think if we also add prayer to the equation and
To the question.
use all the resources that are at our disposal, we will definitely make headway on this situation.
Yes. There's a question that came there. I will come back to it, but we are assuming that marriage is just wife and husband and their biological children and whatever. There are some men who are in their either third marriage, second marriage, and or there are women who are in their second marriage, and you have got these blended families. And now you can actually, as a man, look at how your children are being treated, and you try to raise issues to say, but look, I'm not happy with the way you are treating these kids. Oh, you can take them to their mother. If they are causing a problem, let them go back to their mother. And what do they need here? If I'm failing to take care of them and whatever. Now you have this man now who is put in an awkward situation. He wants to please his wife, and at the same time he wants to protect his children. In one line, how do you help such a family?
Mm.
Because sometimes women can be very difficult and tough, and they can put you on, especially where your children are involved, they can cause you to feel some pain. Not every woman, though, but some can actually, that becomes your vulnerable aspect, and they can actually dance on it. How do you deal with your children are being abused in the process, and you love your wife in the process, but things are not happening? What do you do?
Yeah, this is one area where difficulties arise.
Yes.
Remember, you are a parent to those children, and you can't allow them to be abused in your presence.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, as you protect your children, you will be compromising your relationship with either your husband or your wife.
Yes.
But remember, from the onset, you needed to have attended therapy,
Yes.
because both of you will now have children
Mm-hmm.
whom you are not their biological parents. I mean,
Yes.
both of you. Therefore,
Yes.
you need to attend therapy. And number two, the two of you need to constantly communicate,
Yes.
because as you communicate, you are ironing issues that may arise in future.
Mm-hmm.
And thirdly, you need to discuss how you are treating the kids
Yes.
themselves. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
don't discuss that, it will come up and haunt the two of you. And the children also need to be re-socialized, because they don't know this man or they don't know this
Not
woman.
this mother, yes.
Yes, therefore you need to re-socialize them so that they are now able to see there is this person, and this person is not our mother, or this person is not our father, but we are here and we have not chosen this person. Our mother has chosen this person, our father. Therefore, the
Yes.
children are in a corner and they need to be assisted to understand and accept this arrangement, as well as the husband or the wife needs to be assisted to accept that they are kids, and these kids can actually be uh, be fighting for their mother who
Yes.
is not here now. And
Mm.
even if you do things the right way, they may not accept them, because in their minds, their
Yes.
father should be with their mother. Therefore, this is a
Okay.
difficult situation. It
Yeah.
definitely needs therapy. And if
Yeah.
it's not done, it creates a problem. It definitely needs open communication. If it's not done, it becomes a problem. It definitely needs skills that
Yes.
you are able to bring the families together and continually dialogue in the process.
No, I appreciate that. Time is against us, but there are these two questions that have come. Let's look at women's liberation, uh, feminism, and also there's a question on nagging. Isn't nagging an aspect of calling for attention and whatever? Maybe let's, before we go to nagging, let's look at the impact of feminism on husbands or on marriage. Is it making life easy in terms of women changing to this ideology and also imposing it on men, or how men view it and whatever? In a nutshell, we don't have time. We have 2 or 3 minutes left. Um, Prof, maybe let me just go head on with you. Feminism, its impact on the relationship, women empowerment, women's liberation, and whatever. Is it making life easy in marriages, or what's your take?
Definitely, it will not make life easy. Remember, when I become a feminist, it is because I am feeling oppression.
Mhm.
Therefore, if I'm oppressed, I'm going to look at ways and means to liberate myself. And
Yes.
when I liberate myself, I may hurt you in the
Mhm.
process.
Yes.
Therefore, this is as a result of me feeling oppressed. Therefore,
Mhm.
I then adopt the feministic ideologies so that
Mhm.
I may be able to survive in this relationship.
In the, is it bad from what you are saying? I know there are various people from different spectrums of life. Are you saying feminism is evil? Women's liberation is evil? Is it bad? Is it something? What? How do you view that? Spongle.
Um, well, I wish we had another hour to talk about feminism in itself, because
Yeah,
I think
but in
a
a
lot of
nutshell, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it being taken to extremes? Is it underused? What is this thing that is coming into homes, into marriages?
I think fundamentally the original definition of the original ideology of feminism is that
Yes,
it's a belief in social, economic, and the political equality between the sexes. That's
yes,
at its fundamental level. And
yes,
obviously, anyone would
yes,
is able to take it and express it and define it in whatever way they would want to. And
yes,
people have often taken it and abused it and
yes,
used it to justify their own movements, just as with any other ideology, whether it's
yes.
religion or whatever
Oh,
the
yeah.
case may be.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
fundamentally, feminism believes that socially, economically, politically, men and women are equal. It doesn't mean that men and women are the same.
Mhm.
Talks about equality,
Yes,
access to opportunities, access to resources, and being
yes,
treated fairly. So I
yes,
wouldn't say feminism is evil. And looking at it from that perspective, and when I reflect on that perspective, I see how men themselves can be feminist. If you are a man and you believe that in the equality of access to social, economic, and political opportunities between men and women, then you yourself are feminist.
Okay, beautiful. Pastor Ngwira, in 30 seconds, nagging is a cry for attention. Is it true?
It depends. Again, it depends. It may be true, it may not be true. But to me, as a man, if my wife is nagging, I will bother myself to find out what is it that I'm not doing well, so that I can hear and attend to those emotions, so that there's peace. Because blessed as the peacemaker, and they shall be called the sons of God. So I think others use nagging to make sure that you hear me. Others just to revenge. So I'm saying it depends on where you are and how to deal with your situation.
But before I ask you, every one of you, in a minute to summarize the take-home message to our viewers, is it not possible, because we don't want this husband to keep blaming themselves? Oh, she is nagging because I am the problem. Or she is closing the shop because I am the problem. I don't know whether this is the message we are sending out. Is it not possible that definitely there are women who have got clinical challenges in terms of nagging, and they may definitely need help, otherwise they are destroying their own marriages and whatever? I think this may be rhetoric, you don't have to answer it, but I want to think that out there we have women who know themselves that they are nagging and they are being rude to their husbands, and the things are not going on very well, and the onus is on them to realize what impact this is causing on their marriages. Friends, I would like to thank you for taking part in this program. Like Swangle says, how we wish we had the whole week to discuss this, but time is always jealous. Let me give a minute to each one of you to give your summary thought in terms of women who destroy peace. What do you want women to hear or men to hear as you sign off? What is it that you don't want them to forget, or you want them to always remember? That you came to the studio and you made this statement. What would be the take-home message, Dr. Professor Gwalade?
Number one, women must not blame men for their own shortcomings. They must take responsibility, and if needs be, they need to attend to therapy. Number two, the Bible is very clear. Stay well and peacefully with your partner.
Yes.
And the last one is drink from your own cistern. And if you do those, the Lord will bless you.
Appreciate that, Dr. Professor Gwala. Pastor, we'll end up with the wife in the group.
All right.
Let's come to our pastor there. What would be your take-home message, Pastor, to our viewers? What is it that you don't want them to forget or you want them to remember?
For me, I would say that if there are women that are problematic out there, don't focus much on changing your partner, your husband. Can you be that change in the situation that you are in, so that peace can be restored? Because sometimes it is wanting so much to change this other person, forgetting that you can be a change agent. Once you start doing that, things will be better and move into a certain direction of mutual understanding.
Okay. No, that's powerful. I appreciate that. The woman in the group, what is the message to men out there, to women out there?
Okay. Thank you once again, Pastor Ngwaru. I think my message is that my prayer and my hope is that husbands and wives should remember the sleeping savior that is in our marriages. And we're living in times where we need to stir him to consciousness and cry out to him carest thou not that we perish, because we are
Yes.
clearly perishing in our relationships, and he will be true to who he is and what he has been in the past. And it will be a wonder to hear him when he stands up and he says, peace be still,
Yes.
to the men and women in the marriages.
Yes. Beautiful. You give me hope that marriages that are bad now can be good tomorrow if we work on them, if we bring them to the Lord in prayer, and the prayer moves mountains. And as we combine that with seeking therapy, going to professionals, people who are trained about this, when we can talk about this with other men and what have you, and sometimes with other women, solution can be found. But keeping silent, like what Pastor Ngwiro was saying, keeping quiet and pretending you are strong is not good enough for your marriage. This is your marriage. You are in it together with your wife. Talk things over and share. Don't be pretend to be strong. Just be vulnerable and seek help, and everything will be okay. Thank you very much for your wisdom that you have shared. Obviously, we have not exhausted this topic. We may need a rerun or a follow-up to this discussion. It has been wonderful to hear you contribute, and I'm sure our viewers, as you can see others here saying, we have really benefited. Thank you very much. And to you, our viewers out there, we want to thank you for being there and moving together with us. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your questions and what have you. We continue to invite you every Thursday at 7 p.m. Please be around here. This is where we are working together to improve relationships and to improve how we manage our lives. As you know, our vision is to make this channel a preferred platform for human development, for relationships and everything. We really want to solicit your support so that we can move together. And for that to happen, we'd like to invite you to like our Facebook page, Let's Talk with Pastor Ngwaru, and follow us there, and also to subscribe to our YouTube page and what have you. Together, we'll make things happen. I'd like to say goodbye and God bless, and please may peace return to the home. Yes, it will, in Jesus' name. Thank you very much and good night. Thank you very much. Our panelists, thank you. God bless you.
Good night. Good night.